the Dominican Republic at numbers that will just alarm you. So again, let me introduce you to Oleg Ruitki, who is the director of New Hope in Moldova. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
And Pastor Steve Hootmacher from Cedar Creek Church.
Yep.
This is a passion for both of you, this issue of the trafficking of children. Why is that?
You know, the whole story of where it comes and is rooted actually in the story of my wife. My wife, she was born in a family with, you know, just looked as a great family, but the moment her mom died of cancer, and that devastated her father. He abandoned both kids. Growing as an orphan in a former Soviet and a former USSR country, that shaped her passion, her her future, her understanding of what she can do in her life. And then when I met this beautiful girl, she was actually the fire that God has. I've got this in my life to help the orphans. The moment we starting working with the orphanages, getting into the orphans' lives, that's where we realize there is more happening to these kids. Beyond the walls of those orphanages, there is a different world.
And what's that world like?
It's a world of poverty, a world of malnutrition, a world of lack of so many things, clothes. You know, to see these kids being so thankful for just a little, you know, a pencil, a toothbrush, or just a soap.
Is it that poverty though that makes them vulnerable for trafficking?
And that's the number one drawing thing for these kids. Lack of skills, lack of opportunities that they would love to have in life. But the poverty is the number one, is looking for jobs whenever they are kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 14 through 16, have nowhere to go, don't know what to do with their life, and that's where the pimps are right there, ready to get them. So we felt really called to actually do this work of getting into the lives of these orphan kids, stepping into the world of these children to be able to protect them from this evil.
How prevalent is the issue of human trafficking abroad?
Oh, you talk about some of the hot spots on the planet. First of all, you talk about Eastern Europe is one of the major sources for girls coming out of Moldova, out of Ukraine, out of Russia, through some countries that are neighboring countries, and then you end up in the European Union and even to United States. You talk about girls out of our part of the world sold into Southeast Asia, in some other parts in Middle East. So that's big, because we're talking about 27 million people globally being sold today.
Really? Are these all children? 27 million children, or 27
No, it's
million?
actually 27 million in general.
In general.
If you divide the statistics, it is, you talk about the prevalent, 71% of women are trafficked mostly for prostitution. Out of the numbers that actually nobody can track them today. You know, you don't really know exactly how many girls, how many boys, how many kids are in. But the forms of these 27 million people, the forms of trafficking, the variety of it is prostitution, as I mentioned, 71%. You talk about forced labor. You talk about, harvesting their organs, which is a big issue.
Harvesting their organs?
Yes, ma'am. You know, kids being sold for body parts, sold alive, and into some countries where these bodies are taken apart. They're
so these
for
children
a kidney,
are
for a heart.
These children are sold. They are then killed so that their body parts can be
Their human
harvested.
organs, yeah.
Yes.
Even babies. I mean, I met a woman recently over in Moldova who was one of the ones who was fortunately rescued, and she was captured to have babies for human organs. And they harvested the baby's organs just shortly after the baby was born. They would take the baby and.
So again, she was captured in order to be impregnated to breed,
it had
essentially.
multiple children, yes.
For their organs.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Human trafficking, I think what really drives the whole thing is it is a huge industry. It's money. It's even bigger than a drug trade as far as money goes. One child in the course of its use can be purchased for $200 or even less, and can actually earn up to $300,000 for their string of captors.
Through stars.
through prostitution, through human organs.
Yeah.
It's tragic, and then they're just discarded like garbage afterwards.
So there are layers where how these girls actually go. You know, the kids this is one of the forms of trafficking that is actually growing in the world. Is increasing every year. The numbers of kids that you know, are sold for their organs or for sexual exploitation, it is increasing. Some people think the trafficking is actually decreasing, but it's not. You know, one of the stats that just last week came out in my own country, in Moldova, that the trafficking has increased in the last 6 months with 17% compared to last year, the stats. And 17% out of this, the number one trafficking is actually kids. Now the reverse happened. It used to be women for sexual exploitation, men for forced labor. Now is kids mostly sold for exploitation in the sex industry, as well as harvesting their organs.
So what actually happens to these children? They're primarily orphans.
Yes.
Is that right? And
Yes.
and they are there's no regulation around how children are placed or removed from orphanages?
Definitely there
How are they
regulations.
removed from orphanages and sold?
Yeah, I can speak for, you know, that part of the world. That's where I am from. That's where,
Absolutely.
you know, that's where I work. That's
Yeah.
where I invest into the people. We care for the world, for the whole world, but that's where my passion is, in Eurasia. Talking about Eastern Europe, former Soviet countries, they do have systems in place, but not a lot of the systems work. There are procedures, but not a lot of procedures work. So you think about kids being kidnapped, some of their cases being sold even before the child leaves the orphanage. So this kid grows in the orphanage not knowing that somebody already purchased the case of this kid. So he's already or she's already purchased. There's just the timing. It's all about the timing, is when the pimps or, you know, the traffickers are going to come and just get this kid.
Oh my stuff.
They'll actually go into the orphanages and pick the children, and so they'll buy the children in advance, so that when they're released, then they're released into their care and custody.
So do you all know what a day is like for one of those kids once they're purchased?
From the kids that we've been able to help rescue, you know, we have different stories of being involved in rescuing. I was personally involved in rescuing kids. From my perspective, this is very different from case to case. You cannot just generalize. But we have cases of the girls that they've been put into sexual exploitation, and you know, having 40 to 50 customers a day to be able to see them, transported from place to place, not being, you know, it's malnutrition, not being fed enough, and if they would not serve as the pimp wants, physical abuse, sleeping on, you know, on the floor, usually in a warehouse or places where they can be locked behind iron bars.
Sometimes drugged. It's a form of intimidation and fear that if they try to escape, their families will pay a price.
And
Their
then
families will
The
pay.
families will pay a price
oh
if they try to
yes,
escape.
that's pimps. Pimps are controlling them. I mean, the papers are taken away, and that's how they control. Beside drugs, and they're telling them that if you try to run, well, we will kill your family.
And how old are these children that we're talking about?
If
How-
we
The
talk
youngest is what?
we talk about 11, 10 years of age. You know, the moment, if we talk about orphanages, that's on an average the age of 11 to 12 when they're actually taken and sold out. It's really, you know.
So we have 11-year-old boys and girls servicing 40 customers a day, sexually servicing 40 customers a day.
Yes.
Wow. What's the
know,
opportunity?
It's shocking. It's shocking. You know, the red light district. If you walk some of the red light districts in Eastern Europe, it's shocking to see. Like, I'll give you a story of mine. I'm walking through one of the red light districts of Istanbul, Turkey, which some of the countries play a role of a hub, major hubs for trafficking from some countries into other countries. You walk and you see these tall, hotels, huge hotels. And on the top of the hotel, look, there's little rooms, iron bars, iron door. There's no way to get out. You know, if you escape and you're somehow out of that room, jump, commit suicide. Try
Which
to
is
get
what some
through,
do.
which is a lot of them, they do.
They end up suicide.
Suicidal tendencies is the number one, I mean, because that's the way out for them. Trying to find a customer that would understand you and help you out, you have to go through the security. So what happens with them? There is no way out.
There's no way out at all.
There is a way out only if law enforcement comes.
Okay, this is breaking my heart. So what happens, how does law enforcement get involved? And why aren't they involved sooner? How does all of this happen around them? You know, my only context in this conversation is what happens in the United States. So, and I'm sure that that's the truth with many of our viewers today. So you're going to help us understand how this happens so flagrantly without law enforcement.
Well, you can probably verify this too, but just, you know, keep in mind these are impoverished countries, and so people there just don't make much money because human trafficking is so lucrative. Because it creates an opportunity for corruption. You know, you can buy off the police, you can buy off the director of an orphanage. They can make a lot of money by not being involved, or you know, turning the other cheek, or even get into a bartering situation. So just because of the poverty, it creates an opportunity for people to do these horrific things just for the sake of money.
Gosh.
Sad. You've seen the movie Taken, Taken 2.
Absolutely. I was
probably,
just thinking that this sounds so much like that.
Well, you know, as you know, Taken, it's as you know, the movie Hollywood really, you know, they show someone being actually taken off the street, kidnapped, and that does happen. Taken 2 was actually filmed in Istanbul.
Right.
We were standing just a few months ago on the streets of Istanbul, and right there where a lot of the filming was taking place. But what was interesting is that you could look around and you could, once your eye is trained to identify the victims and the traffickers, it's all around. It's amazing. Yeah, it's scary.
This is the peril of a half-hour TV show. We need to take a break right now. We will be right back. Don't leave me yet. We've got more to talk about. Just a few seconds. See you soon.